Coming up on this episode of DL Weekly, more After Dark events announced, a virtual queue is going away, a classic returns for guests.
An old new parade is coming back this week, new details of San Francisco. We talked to Alex from the Backside of Water podcast and more. DL Weekly starts now.
Buenos dias, señorita. My siestas are getting shorter and shorter. Oh, look at all the people listening. Welcome to DL Weekly's Enchanted Podcast. Hey, Tag and Teresa, mi amigos. Pay attention, it's showtime.
Hello and welcome to this episode of DL Weekly for the week of February 22nd, 2023. I'm Teresa Urban.
And I'm Tag Bushman. Thank you to Kendall M. for becoming an official weekly tier on our Patreon. Our supporters get some pretty fun perks like DL Weekly swag, bonus content, and access to our Discord community. A special thank you to Brooklyn D., Kavehi S., Kim G., and Angel T. for your continued support. If you'd like some more Disney magic in your day, head on over to dlweekly.net/support to join the community.
Well, it's that time again for our friend Eric over at Concierge to catch us up on other Disney news.
Hello, everyone. This is Eric Johnson with Concierge, and welcome to the D180. While Teg and Teresa cover all things Disneyland, in the D180 we take a spin around the rest of the Disney universe, and we do it in 180 seconds. Let's jump right in. We start our journey in the frozen north of Alaska. I get it. Some of you might be living through your own frozen adventure at present. Maybe a cruise through similar terrain isn't on the top of your list right now. But think ahead to those warmer months. A Disney cruise through Alaskan waters might be just the ticket this summer. The Disney Cruise Line departs Vancouver many dates from May through September. Explore Alaska during Disney Cruise Line's Silver Anniversary. The Disney Wonder visits multiple locations along the Alaskan coast. Spend some time among bald eagles, bears, and whales south of Juneau, where one of the country's largest glaciers provides pristine water to the Alaskan wilderness. Another stop along the cruise brings guests to the Hubbard Glacier amid Alaska's somewhat misnamed Disenchantment Bay. Your stop in this icy paradise includes views of seals basking in the sun and 600-foot-tall walls of snow and ice. If you're lucky, you could witness the spectacle of this ice crashing into the sea. Other destinations on the route include the state capital of Juneau and the fishing town of Ketchikan. Any destination along the Wonders journey includes hefty doses of local flavor, Native American culture, and modern living. Alaska remains a major frontier outpost even today, and you can make it your next destination. Stopping back ashore, we're getting just a bit closer to the new Disney dining destination at Hollywood Studios, Roundup Rodeo Barbecue. The title just has the three letters B, B, and Q, but I think it's safe to assume we'll all say the whole word, right? Continuing the theme of Andy's Toy Story Land, the Imaginative Lad has assembled another playset filled with everybody's favorite friends. Head on in for some fun views and some great-looking barbecue. Hollywood Studios has become a very popular park, and it's great to see some more food options coming up. The restaurant doesn't open until March 23rd. If you happen to be in the parks around then, book your reservations starting February 21st. Oh, and speaking of Disney dining, you can still take advantage of the new Disney Dining promo card if you're staying at Walt Disney World. Vacation packages of up to 5 nights are eligible for a gift card good for dining locations only. Save up to $750 on your meals. You only have a few weeks left, though. Book that vacation anytime from now until March 27th. And that's 180 seconds. I hope you enjoyed our quick spin around the rest of the Disney universe. If you'd like to learn more about these Disney adventures or just have a few questions, please come on over. Visit the social media and websites of both DL Weekly and us, their official travel planners concierge. We look forward to planning something special for you and yours. I'm Eric Johnson, and this has been your D180.
Well, thanks, Eric, for that update for all the rest of the Disney universe. Now let's get to the news.
We were starting to get worried that the popular Star Wars night would not happen this year since Disney hadn't announced anything, and May 4th is coming up so quick. Well, last week they finally announced not one but 2 Disneyland After Dark nights coming to Disneyland. Disneyland After Dark Throwback Night will celebrate the 50s and 60s with music and entertainment that will pay tribute to Disneyland's first 10 years. Fantasy in the Sky fireworks will be performed, classic dancing, treats from the early days of Disneyland, and more. For Star Star Wars Night, Star Wars Celebrate the Night fireworks will perform. The March of the First Order returns. A lightsaber instructional demonstration and more will be happening. Magic Keyholder tickets went on sale Tuesday, February 21st, with general public on Thursday, February 23rd. Check out the link in the show notes for all the dates and times.
I was thinking this wasn't going to happen.
It was a very late announcement.
Teresa even had given up because we were trying to plan a trip around this time because we wanted to do a Star Wars night because producers Vern and James love Star Wars. We'd like to go to one of these. And we thought, I guess it's not happening. So we're going to have to go with other plans.
And the timing worked out because it's Vern's long weekend from work. And you and James both had that week off from classes.
Yep.
The stars were aligning, but we just had no announcement for the party.
The Star Wars were aligning.
The Star Wars were aligning. The X-Wings.
Yeah. So I was so excited when I had a break from class and I looked in our news feed and bam, there it was. And I was like, oh, and I was so excited.
It was Thursday or Friday?
Something. But then I was also very excited that they have another After Dark night because obviously, the Star Wars nights are great. There's 4 nights of them, all towards the beginning of the month this time.
Yeah, so Star Wars nights are the 2nd, the 4th, the 8th, and the 11th. Prices range from $149 up to $169, depending on which night you choose.
And then Teresa's excitement.
Oh my gosh. So if I could be there for both of these, 1000% I would. I'm excited about Star Wars night to experience it with the DL Weekly crew because these 3 guys are way more into Star Wars than I could ever imagine to be. They watch not just the movies, but you guys all watch the shorts, like the little series.
You know what I just realized?
The animated series. You guys play the games.
You're gonna correct me.
You read some of the books.
You're gonna correct me if I'm wrong. Is this my first after hours party that's not Oogie Boogie Bash? I think it is because we never got to do Villains Night.
It's mine too.
Look at that! So it's gonna be our first after our Star Wars night.
I did not do any other. I've not done any other After Dark nights
because we've done Oogie Boogie Bash, but we have not done one of these.
You're right.
Anyway, sorry.
So, but when I was reading about Throwback Night, which Throwback Nights are April 18th and the 20th, ranging from $129 and $145 depending on the night, I was super bummed. I was wishing that they would have been instead of a week. There's a whole week in between the 2 of them. So I'd have to fly out there, fly back, fly out there, fly back. That's a lot of traveling. So I'm just not going to do that. But I'm so excited for everyone that gets to go experience Throwback Night. I'm going to be living vicariously through all the people posting things on, on their Instagrams and whatnot and videos that are being posted. But Throwback Night is a throwback to the first decade of Disneyland. So it's like, they're trying to recreate Disneyland from the late 50s, early 60s. So I think it just would be so fun to go because right back then people would dress up to go to the parks. It's like an after hour party meets Dapper Days is what I'm envisioning. I just think it's going to be so cool. Plus the original fireworks show Fantasy in the Sky, they're doing a recreation of that, which I'm sure is not the most epic fireworks show, obviously, since it was the original, but just still, it's as close to experiencing the park, when it first opened, as those of us that weren't able to experience. It's the next best thing, in my opinion. I might be putting it on this tall pedestal in my head, and it's really not going to be all that cool, but it just sounds so cool. There's going to be, the other thing too, they're going to have characters that are reminiscent from back in that time. So they're going to have not the same, we won't say creepy scary, but they were a little...
Yeah, they would be good not to do that.
Yeah, they're not going to have the original costumes, which the costumes have definitely been upgraded through the years. But they're going to, the characters are going to be in the, throwback clothing to, honor this as well. They're going to have the opening day, opening day attractions are going to be open after hours to experience. It sounds so cool. But I am excited for Star Wars stuff. The thing that is real exciting to me. This is really random. I haven't even told you this. I'm excited for the unique and the rare character meet and greets that come along with Star Wars. Because I think you can meet Ewoks and you can meet Jawas.
Well, the one thing I'm excited about, and I feel I have to talk about this with producer James too, is they have a lightsaber thing. So I feel like my lightsaber is
You're
going to have to go with
take
me.
your lightsaber.
And James hopefully will bring his lightsaber, and we can do the cool lightsaber experience that
little
they've talked
class.
about, the
Mhm,
class.
mhm.
Plus, remember from last year, they had people that would all go around the Falcon, and they had all their
Yep,
lightsabers,
yep.
and there was a photo op.
Oh,
and-
yeah.
So I'm excited for all of those things. And then I love the fireworks shows that I've seen that have integrated Star Wars music into them. I'm very excited for that because I think Star Wars music lends itself so well to fireworks.
Yes.
So very excited. We did get tickets for it with our Magic Keys, so we were able to
We
get
did.
those. Very, very excited for that. More details of that visit in the future. Well, just under a month after Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway opened, we're already getting a standby queue. Starting today, when this podcast posts, there will no longer be a virtual queue for the attraction. Individual Lightning Lane is still available for an extra fee, but guests can now walk back to the attraction without having to hit the right button in the app at just the right time to join the virtual queue. This also allows guests the chance to ride the attraction multiple times in a single day.
I was really surprised that they're sunsetting or temporarily suspending the virtual queue this soon. The virtual queue for Rise felt like it stayed around forever.
Yep.
And then on the flip side, on the East Coast, it felt like the virtual queue for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway also stuck around for quite a while. So this seems like a very quick turnaround. Now, they did say that it could come back on some of the busier, more popular days. So it's not like it's gone for good.
Right.
But for the most part, most days that you're at the resort, there won't be a virtual queue for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And I'm really surprised by that, because even what I was seeing online with the popularity of the demand and the demand of the virtual queue was super high. I don't think people were very willing to jump in that virtual queue. Not as many people were willing to pay the individual Lightning Lane costs, because those would still be available.
Right.
You know, those wouldn't just get eaten up right away first thing. It wasn't like those were available for less than 5 minutes. Those would be available for hours. But the virtual queues were filling up lickety split quick. So I'm surprised by this.
I think what it is, and I don't know, but this would be my assumption. So Rise stuck so long because Rise had reliability issues, right? And so
they're having issues with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, though.
Right, but capacity wise, I think Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway eats people more than Rise probably does. And then with Web Slingers, I think that for whatever reason, I don't think it was as popular as they expected it to be. So I think that's why that one kind of went.
Yeah.
But Mickey and Minnie, I think, is really popular. But I think a couple things. One, they have a large queue section that people are enjoying seeing and finding all the details and stuff in. There is that whole grass section with the rest of Toontown not being open that they could filter a line out into if they wanted to.
That's true.
And so I just think that it's probably more reliable than Rise
Is.
And I think that it
Poor
eats
Rise.
people, and I think they've kind of worked out the operational, efficiency of it. So that would be my guess, is that they don't feel like they're going to have a massive line snaking out into the parade route by It's a
Sure,
Small World
sure.
or anything like that. So that's my guess.
I'm curious to see what the first couple of days without the virtual
Sure.
queue, what the queue, like, I'm going to be one of those, I'll say, cool people stalking my app and watching the
Oh,
wait
sure.
times. I'm really curious to see what happens there.
I'm excited because our next trip, then, that means that we could probably go on it a couple times in a day instead of being stuck with a virtual queue, which we can only go once.
Well, and the nice thing too is then you get to control and you get to pick when you're going to devote the time to do the attraction and wait in the queue versus just,
That is a downside.
this is my assigned time, so you got to make sure that you're
and
back
you're very
there when you need to be.
attached, because if you're decide you want to go back to the hotel as an
Yep.
example for a break, and it's like, guess what, your time's up, you're like, crap. Or if you're sitting down, if you have a dining reservation or something. So
Exactly. Well, this next story, all of my fellow Haunted Mansion fans will appreciate. Not only is the Haunted Mansion, the original version, back welcoming guests, because we did have a very extended Haunted Mansion holiday this year, but the thing that I'm just the most excited about with this story, yes, yay, Haunted Mansion is back, but there was an upgrade to the show that was installed over this transition from holidays back to the original version, but it has mysteriously or eerily disappeared since. There was a bird cage with a bat inside that was placed next to the chair at the endless hallway. This scene, or this specific bird cage with a bat, appeared in concept art by Mark Davis, but was never actually installed in the mansion. So we have photos of this bird cage being there. We have photos of the concept art, but it disappeared. So it was there for a couple of days and then mysteriously was gone.
Yeah, I wonder what happened with that. It seems like a simple enough prop to add. You know, it's not something as advanced, I would say, like the Hatbox Ghost. But this was just kind of like a birdcage with a bat with some glowing eyes in it. It didn't seem very, technologically crazy or anything. It is suspicious that it has disappeared. I do hope it comes back. But the Haunted Mansion is one of those attractions. We've talked about this with Pirates, I think, a little bit too, that they kind of just sprinkle in new stuff every now and again.
Though.
But that's what you want, right? You want little details added here and there to keep it fresh without, redoing entire sections of the attraction.
I think, but what's so cool about the things that they've been doing, specifically with the Haunted Mansion, is they're taking things that have a history with the mansion and then creating them. So we had April, December, and the cat in the, I'm going to call it the queue. It's the queue in between the queue. It's the waiting area before you enter on your doom buggy, that wall.
The portrait hallway.
So the extension of the portrait hallway that they got. I think that was just, maybe it was last year before. Recently, we got that extension. We got the new portrait and then the black cat, the one-eyed cat. So I think it's really cool that this is a piece of concept art that they've now created the actual prop for and put in the mansion. I hope it comes back. I hope that there was just some goofy little something that they needed to tweak so that this bat in the cage comes back. I want to say, I think I read that it was, it's rumored to be a man-eating bat in the cage. And so there's two bones sticking out. It looks like there's two, what were cups that were filled with blood.
Oh,
wow. Of course, the bats drank them. Yes, it's a very, very fun thing. I think this is so cool that somebody in Imagineering was like, this is a cool thing. It deserves a place in the mansion. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
So, fingers crossed it comes back soon.
Well, hopefully they do more of that with some other attractions too, of looking at some old concept art to try to see something. Well, the long-awaited return to the Poor Parade that was never given a chance by the pandemic comes back this week. Magic Happens debuted at the end of February 2022 and closed with the park. As of Friday, the parade will perform at 3:30 and 6:30 p.m. daily.
I am so excited for Poor Magic Happens to return.
Right?
It looks like such a fun parade. We had the privilege of being able to hear the music and kind of get a glimpse of the parade when we were at D23 back in 2019. And then this Poor Parade only was able to perform, I think it was less than a month before the parks shut down. So I'm really happy that they were able to bring it back. It's such a fun show. I think the colors with the Disney 100 go together really well because you've got the same kind of fun iridescent and the purples and the blues. Plus the theme of Magic Happens is all about magic and the different transformations. I think it ties in well with the theme with the Disney 100.
Sure. Yeah, I'm excited because some of these floats looked amazing. There was a Coco float that looked particularly cool.
Yes.
I saw in one of the articles I was reading about this today, I saw that I had forgotten that there was a small, counterpart to one of the main floats that was a hey.
Oh yeah,
and I was like,
the little hey in a basket.
Yes, I love it. So I'm very excited to see this come back. Now we're just waiting for Paint the Night, and I will be thrilled.
One step at a time, Tag. One step at a time.
I'm just glad we're finally getting a real parade back.
And we have a daytime parade. This is, I think, the first true daytime parade we've had since the shutdown.
Which means that
we've just had cavalcades.
For some people who only like the attractions, that could be a good time to get on attractions because so many people will be at the parade route.
It just dawned on me that our next trip, this will be
there.
We'll get to experience Magic Happens. Be prepared
it's gonna be nice.
to watch it multiple times, just like we had to do for the Main Street Electrical Parade.
Well, the good news is we have our significant others that we can go do other things if we're not interested. I'm not saying I'm not interested in seeing it multiple times. I'm just saying if I was that was just okay. Unlike the Electrical Parade, where every single time we walked by, you're like...
I had to stop. I was just drawn
You're
in.
like, Elliot! I'm like, oh, geez, here we go again.
It's the same thing with Paint the Night, though. I'd have to stop for Paint the Night, too.
I would also stop for Paint the Night. In fact, I've got to be careful. James got irritated at me because I said on a podcast or a stream that I would pay somebody up to $100 if they gave me the recipe for the potatoes, which, by the way, I think we found. So that offer's off the table. I wanted to say
What do you mean you think
that
you
I
found?
would
You
pay
either did or you
myself
didn't.
to fly to California if that returned to be there on opening day to support Paint the Night, because how much I've wanted that parade to come
What
back.
does that even mean?
What I'm saying is I've wanted it to come back so much that I would somehow make my schedule work to go and sit and be there on
Oh.
premiere day to support this thing that I've been complaining about
Oh,
needing
yes,
to come
yes,
back for
yes.
years.
Like, what do you mean you'd pay yourself to go?
Oh no, I'm saying like it wouldn't have to be podcast, like anything. Like I would just go.
Oh.
But I won't say that because my luck, it'll happen like in the middle of summer when I'm going to Europe.
What I just heard was, I'm not going to say this, but I'm saying this,
Yeah,
but I'm not going to
basically.
say this.
I'm not committing myself to anything, but I'd like to commit myself.
So go back to the potatoes. Did you?
We have not made them yet.
Okay.
Have
so
not
you
had
have
time.
you have a recipe that's looking
That looks really close.
similar. Got it.
Maybe I don't know what we're doing this week. Maybe this weekend for like a breakfast thing.
There
Maybe
you
I'll
go.
make some.
There you go. Well, weekly tiers who have seen the latest Ant-Man and the Wasp movie will be excited to meet one of the characters from the movie in Avengers Campus. Of course, we're talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Kang the Conqueror will be visiting for a short time, so get to Avengers Campus soon if you want to catch him.
Excuse me,
I have not seen this movie, so
Me either.
I don't know who Kang the Conqueror is yet.
So our exchange student from Germany, Max, who was a huge
oh,
Marvel
yes.
fan,
Yes.
was very excited to hear that the next like villain, the major villain kind of in the Star Wars in the Marvel universe is this Kang the Conqueror person, and I know nothing about them.
Mm-mm.
But he's there in the park and meeting people, and it's going to be a short time. You know, I wonder,
I still
this
just
is
love this synergy.
totally off topic kind of. I wonder if they're ever going to bring back the Hulk. Because remember, he was there for a limited time too.
I think the Hulk needs a little bit more
Tweaking?
training. We'll say he needs a little bit more training before he does his meeting and greeting again. Because
Sure.
that was So the technology or the however you want to say it to bring the Hulk to life to be able to meet is brand new. So I
Yeah.
think that was kind of a good trial run. So I think they probably learned a lot, took some notes, and they're gonna go with Hulk 2.0
Sure.
next time we see the Hulk. But I just think it's so cool still, even though these characters, because there's been a ton, especially Marvel characters, that have been getting introduced and you can meet in the park right as their shows, movies, basically right as we're being introduced to these characters,
Synergy.
we're meeting them in the park. Great other one is Moon Girl.
Yep.
Is also in the park right now. Her show hasn't even started yet, but she's meeting and greeting already in the parks to kind of get people excited to watch the show. And I think it's so fun and exciting, but it's also really amazing to me that Disney's taking the time to develop and create these characters and the expense of costuming them and having them there and all that. And when really relatively, it's a very short period of time. It's not like Captain America where you can almost guarantee that you can run into
Right.
Captain America anytime you go there. These are characters that are just here for like a blink of an eye.
Sure.
So I think it's really cool that this is something that they're focusing on, and not to get negative, but there's a lot of things in the parks that they aren't putting this much love and attention and focus
sure.
to. So this just makes me extra excited because this is why we love Disneyland. This is why we love Disney parks, is the attention to detail like this that they're showing here. So I'm all for it, even though I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, and I don't even know I don't even know who this new character is yet. But it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's making me excited because now I'm like, well, who is this guy? I want to know. Maybe I wasn't planning on seeing the movie. Maybe I need to go see. You know what I mean? Like it gets you to thinking. Whereas before I'd be like, maybe
It's
I'm
doing
not.
its marketing job.
It is. It's doing its marketing job. Now,
If only
Full
they bring these
disclosure-
characters like this. I know they're starting to, but if they would do more of this in Galaxy's Edge, that'd be wonderful.
yeah, I feel like going all the way back, I feel like they learned their lesson.
With
a
Galaxy's
few-
Edge from this.
No, I'm going to say even further back because they had some really popular IPs.
Mm.
Frozen's the one I'm thinking of. Frozen was massively popular, but it felt like it took a long time for it to come to the parks. And then when it came to the parks, it came to the parks and it was frozen everywhere,
Let
anywhere.
It Go was in every show,
Yep.
every parade, everything.
But it's still super popular. So I
Yeah.
think if they would have started on having, especially with Frozen, to me that was the turning point in my head. Was
Well, we talk about that with Coco too.
Yeah, even with Coco, people are still really excited about it, and people
Yeah.
are like, give us we love the characters, we love the story, we want to meet these folks. And so I'm glad that the timelines for some of these things are shortening
Yeah.
up, because we were able to meet Mirabelle very soon. She may have been in the
It was
parks
even before.
right? Yeah, I was gonna say she may have been in the parks before the
Yep.
because
I remember
movie.
seeing pictures, and I think we reported on it, and I was like, I don't even
That's
know
true.
who this person
Yep.
is.
Yep, that's true. So
But
I'm excited about
It
it.
generates buzz,
Mhm.
which is what it should do. Well, since the D23 Expo in September, there hasn't been a lot of details about the San Francisco makeover coming to Disney California Adventure. Construction has been progressing slowly on the new bridge, reminiscent of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, but not much else. There will be a meet and greet area with Baymax, a floating wind turbine to power the area, fictionally, of course, and will be open to guests this summer.
Crazy. The thing that I'm most excited about is it seems like from the concept art and from what they were sharing in the Disney Parks blog article is, for the most part, this is just a retheming of the area. So the restaurants, they did say that you can still get your sourdough bread bowls. You can still, the restaurants are staying the same. There might be a little bit of a facelift to them, but the restaurants are all staying the same. But the general look and feel of the area is what's changing. It's not like it's not completely out with the old, in with the new kind of a thing. I am very excited because they were talking about, we were kind of speculating, do you think there'll be a Baymax meet and greet here? And they did confirm that there will be a Baymax meet and greet. It does look like that area. I had to do a little digging because from the concept art, I couldn't quite tell
That's
where
where
that
the beer
was.
truck is.
Yeah, it's behind where the beer truck is currently. So I don't think that's a bad thing to have to sacrifice for a Baymax meet and greet, in my opinion.
So I have
Your
mixed
thoughts?
opinions because one thing, first of all, and this is nitpicky just with the movie and stuff too, is I find it really creative that they combine Tokyo and San Francisco.
Yeah.
Although for some reason, every time I have to say San Francisco, there's just something about it that I'm just kind of like about, and I don't know why. But I love Baymax.
Yes.
And in fact, in this concept, him just peeking out from the corner,
He's so
I'm like,
cute.
Baymax, I want you to experience the park with me. Can you imagine Baymax on the Incredicoaster? That'd be great. Anyway, I'm very excited to meet Baymax. I did meet Baymax in Epcot a few years ago, and it was great. And so I'm looking forward to that for sure. I do like that they kept a lot of the food area. I do like this area as a food area. They are going to be doing some mild retheming of some of the signage and stuff like that, which I like. The idea of this wind turbine being that makes it look like it's floating, because in the movie there was floating wind turbines. I like the idea of this. It'll be interesting to see how that's actually executed. I like this sign that they're going to put the port of San Francisco kind of on the side. So I'm really happy with this. Now, the other thing with this area that's interesting, and you're it's so weird to me, there is so much seating there, but I always feel like there could be more. Do you know what I mean?
It's very
popular.
Yeah, it's a very popular
so
place.
I'm excited for it. I think that I think this could be cute. I think that
I'm looking forward to the visuals of the bridge.
Yeah,
I think that's going to look really cool, especially with how it's going to be lit up at night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for
that. Are you excited to meet Baymax? Are you a Baymax fan?
100%. I love Yes, 100%. He's one of my all-time favorite characters.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that you were that.
I love him. He's so cute. There's some things that in the movie the first time I'm like, I don't understand the humor here, and then watching it second, third, fourth, fifth, and then now I'm thinking it's hilarious. When he was leaking, the holes in him, he's just
and he's taping them.
Yeah.
Did you watch the shorts that were on Disney Plus?
Mm-hmm.
Those were also very cute.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and the characters with that. So, you know what it is? He's just, what I like about him so much is he's such an innocent character.
Yeah.
He's just so kind of pure, I guess. And
and he just
I'm
wants
just trying
to
to help. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just, yeah.
He's
And
very
it doesn't
sweet.
matter if people don't want his help. He's like, I'm going to help you.
Yes. I'm going to be honest, this kind of transitions into the next story. I feel like a hypocrite.
Okay.
I'm going to just say it because I'm excited for this re-theme way more than I'm excited about the French Market being transitioned into Tiana's place. And I think it's just because I had such high hopes in my head for Tiana's place. I didn't have like San Francisco wasn't even something I was envisioning coming to the parks at all. Whereas Tiana's place, yes. And I thought it was going to be an elevated experience. So I just feel sad that
you set a high bar for it.
I did. I set a high bar for it, and it's not meeting my expectations. I feel like it could have been
we haven't
so
seen
amazing.
it yet, though, just
I
to
know,
be fair.
I know. And the one thing too is it makes sense because you couldn't put yet another New Orleans style restaurant in the area because there's quite a few. But I hate to say this, I almost would have been okay with us not getting a Tiana's Place and them doing a Tiana's Place right and putting it at Disney World where they don't have any sort of New Orleans. Yeah, they don't have any sort of like New Orleans influenced cuisine, eateries, that sort of thing. They don't have the Blue Bayou like we do. They don't have the French Market. They don't have all that stuff. So that would have almost made more sense. I know it's terrible for me to wish something to not be in our park and be at a different park, but I feel like they could have done it a little bit more justice. Or done it a little, because I just felt like I thought it was gonna be like a fancy dining experience because that's what it is in the movie.
You know what would be kind of cool, and I think would be a great use of space, is it would have been really cool because it was like in a cannery or something, wasn't it? Like
a sugar, it was like a sugar mill.
You know what would have been really cool is if they would find space on Tom Sawyer Island and build the sugar mill. And that would bring guests to the island more. And I know that there's logistical problems probably of like, okay, well, how do we get stuff over? They could build a tunnel. It's not that deep. But wouldn't that be kind of cool? Because then you could have it across the river from New Orleans
That would
Square.
be cool. That would be a really cool, like for outdoor seating, a really beautiful backdrop. Yeah,
I think that'd be really cool. And it would bring people to the island, which I think that's a good chunk of space in the park that I think is kind of underutilized. Because you used to be able to go back and be in the fort and everything, and nobody can go in the fort anymore.
Yeah.
That's all just dressing room for Fantasmic. So, I don't know. I just think it'd be kind of a cool thing. Obviously, there's issues because, like, it couldn't be open during Fantasmic because there's all this stuff. And, like, whatever. But I just thought, like, from a theming standpoint, that'd be a cool place to put something like that.
That's a neat idea. Yeah. Well, speaking of which, the Mint Julep Bar, along with the French Market, is closed to be transformed into Tiana's Palace. So, where can you get the tasty beignets and mint juleps now? Well, over near the Pirates entrance is the Royal Street Veranda, where the new iconic New Orleans Square treats are for sale. Once Tiana's Palace reopens, the items will return to the old locations. Smart move, Disney. Smart move.
Couple thoughts here. One, this is the place that for the longest time, for some reason, you and I could not remember the name of.
Yes.
This used to be one of my go-to places for food every time I went to the park because this is where I would get my clam chowder Red Bull. This was like my place to do that because it was very quick. You basically, there wasn't any seating or anything. It was just kind of walk up, get your food, and go sit down, watch Fantasmic, whatever. And so I think this is a great location for this. And honestly, because of the backup that happens over at the Mint Julep Bar, why can't they have two permanent locations that sells both of these things?
That'd be cool. Maybe
because then you could split the group of people that are always in line waiting to get these things.
Or you could have like one does the classics, one does the specialties.
That's true. Because I don't know about you, but in recent memory, when we've gone by the Royal Street Veranda, there's never a line there, but there's always a line. Every
time that we've gone to Royal Street Veranda, it's not that it's not popular. I wouldn't say that. It's just they're very efficient. It's a smaller menu, so they're able to get the stuff out very quick. Because the last time we were there, it was some sort of fritter. I don't remember which fritter it was, but there was some sort of
Mint Julep Bar? You get a mint julep, beignets,
juleps and
so
beignets.
They should be quick too.
I don't know, but yeah, it'd be interesting. I do love the Mint Julep Bar. I love that it's attached to the seating area for French Market, soon to be Tiana's Palace. But yeah, I feel like there's got to be a better way because it does, like you said, it does back up quite a bit. Maybe it needs to be mobile order only or standby only. I think the mix of trying to do both of those at such a small location is what's kind of causing the slowness to a point, because that's a lot of beignets and juleps they're having to pump out.
That's true. That's true.
It's two groups, but I was just really happy because this is such a iconic Disneyland treat, something
Sure.
very specific to Disneyland. So I'm glad that even though the specific location is closed temporarily to be refurbished, rethemed, it is nice that you can still get these treats elsewhere. It'd be like
Absolutely.
going to Disneyland and not being able to get a Dole Whip or a churro or something. It's
Mhm.
just, you just kind of assume it's going to be there. So I'm glad that it is still going to be there.
Absolutely. A new sipper has arrived at Avengers Campus at Pym Test Kitchen. The Ooze Cauldron Sipper is inspired by the new Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. The sipper appears to be able to be held by the handle on top or carried with a strap over your shoulder. Guests can pick one up for $27.97, and it comes filled with Quantum Ooze. Do you know what Quantum Ooze is?
No, but I want to try it just because it's such a unique. I'm sure it's something specific to the new Ant-Man and the Wasp film, which, like we've mentioned, we're terrible people and haven't watched it yet. So we don't know what all of these, we don't know the characters, we don't know the references, but yeah, I just want to try it just because I mean, what about Quantum Ooze makes you want to go, ooh, I don't know
looks like
about
it's just
that.
a cherry drink.
Maybe.
By the way, totally off topic, but in the picture of the menu board where this is listed, did you know that they had a butter pecan cold brew at Pym Test
Yes,
Kitchen?
I've been wanting to try it. I thought it was only a seasonal item, so I'm glad to know it's still there. So thank you, yes, for pointing that out.
Okay,
That is good to know. Look at the ooze, though.
Oh, it's a red jelly-like substance which tastes of cherry. And WDW News today said that they think it's rather vile.
The texture is confusing. It's
It's
not
really
jelly.
jelly
It's
or
like
liquid.
I'm even more intrigued by this now. Dang.
It tastes like someone blended
Can I-
up 50 maraschino cherries into a semi-solid
I'm
ooze.
curious. So now, for
For
those of us
$27
that don't
though.
want the sipper, can I buy just the ooze?
That's a great question.
I'm just gonna have to stick with my Pym Particle Punch. That's the one that has the pop rocks.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm really intrigued by this butter pecan cold brew thing here now. Anyway.
You're intrigued by a cold brew?
Well, I like the
I'm
idea of
glad
butter
we
pecan.
record these things, so I have evidence.
I
and
don't
proof.
want the coffee. I just want the other flavoring.
Well, registration is now closed for the Run Disney events for Disneyland that is returning next year. It's closed because it's sold out. All of them, in fact, have sold out. Tickets went on sale Valentine's Day and sold out what felt like immediately. I want to say it was within an hour of sales opening. Everything was sold out. So hopefully the strong demand will bring more Run Disney races to Disneyland in the future.
It has to, right? Like people were so excited to finally have
it was
races
quick.
back. Yeah.
That was super quick. I mean, because we have a half marathon. What was it? A half marathon, a 10K, a 5K, plus a kids run. There was yoga,
the virtual
virtual
race as well.
and then there was also like combination ones where you
Yep.
could sign up for like the half and the 10K or the half, the 10K and the 5. You know, those, different combinations for, I think it was like Dumbo's challenge or
Mhm.
there's some sort of, multiple. I just couldn't believe it. We had quite a few weekly tiers in the chat that were all trying to get in. A lot of them did get in. Some people didn't get the, maybe the distances that they wanted, but I was so happy, but also so like shocked that it sold out so quickly. But again, it's very exciting for these race events to be coming back to Disneyland.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people. There's a guy I follow online who is a big Disney fan, and he is right now maybe over in Disney World doing one of the races, or he just did one of the races, one
Sure.
of the two. And I think he's excited to finally do a Disneyland race at some point too. Now, is that something that Vern's ever interested in, is doing
If
a Disneyland
it was
race?
a marathon, if they had a marathon,
Okay.
100%.
Because he only does marathons in the States.
Yeah, so he's trying to run a marathon in all 50 states.
Gotcha.
His Florida marathon was the Walt Disney World
Gotcha.
Marathon. So he doesn't have a California marathon yet. Obviously, that's going to be an easy one for him to check off his list since we're in California pretty
Regularly.
frequently compared to like how often we go to Alaska or something.
Right.
So for sure, if it was a marathon, easy sign up for him. But since it's a half marathon and, they're not very...
Competitive.
No, not that. I was going to say they're price friendly. They're
Yeah.
expensive races to do. So, but it is an experience, and it's an experience unlike any other running event because it is Disney. You have all these characters. You know, it's a race, but it's definitely more of a fun run. People are not going out there getting their best time.
Yeah.
You're there for the experience and
I
the
feel like
area.
one of these years I want to sign up for this, and I would totally be the fun run person of like, I'm just going to kind of jog between each experience just to see. I want to see the backstage stuff. That's more of a Disney World thing. I want to see a bunch of the characters and all of that. And I know that I've seen pictures and stuff. People like have children in strollers that they're walking or jogging the race and stuff. So you're right that it's definitely fun run. That's exactly
more of
a
a fun
great
run.
word for it. So I'm glad. Like I said, I hope that this means that Disney will try to do more at Disneyland. I do know it's more complicated because they don't control the surrounding area that they need to run with, and it's probably very complex to coordinate with everybody. But I hope that they do because it's kind of a cool event.
Yeah,
and people seem to
definitely.
like it, obviously.
Definitely.
Psst, avast there. It'd be too late to alter course, mateys. And there be trivia questions lurking in every cove, waiting to be answered. Listen close and keep your ruddy Disney knowledge handy. That be the best way to answer correctly. And mark well me words, mateys. Dead men tell no tales. You come seeking questions and long-lost Disney information, eh? Sure, you come to the proper place, but keep a weather eye open, mates, and hold on tight, with both hands, if you please. There be squalls ahead, and James and Vern waiting for them what don't answer correctly.
Welcome to Trivia Land. How we feeling tonight? You got some great answers stored up in your heads? You think you got it? You ready?
We'll see.
I hope so. I'm going to be optimistic.
Yeah? Well, tonight we're 100% listener submitted. Does that make you more optimistic or less?
Less.
You never know. You just never know.
I mean, that's probably more accurate.
All right. Well, let's see what the listeners have for you. Your first listener submitted question today from listener Brooke A. In 1985, which promotional float in the Main Street Electrical Parade was destroyed by a fire?
85.
I have a tickle in my. This is terrible. I do. I have a tickle in my brain from this one.
It's not the It's a Small World one, is it?
The It's a Small World float didn't exist.
1985.
Oh.
Because he said 85. Because the thing is I know that the one with the pipes and stuff that was part of the Pleasure Island float got damaged going back and forth between Disney World and Disneyland, but that was later.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say the It's a Small World one because I know that there was one. I don't know. That's just my best guess. What are you saying?
I'm going to say Casey Jr.
Casey Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Small World and Casey Jr. Final answers.
Yes.
Final.
Excellent. Your second listener submitted question from listener Cooper C. In 2010, 60 Major League Baseball All-Stars made their way down Main Street before the 2010 All-Star Game in Angel Stadium. What Major League Baseball All-Star served as the Grand Marshal?
Do you know this?
No. As soon as he started saying baseball, I was like, nope, out. I'm out.
Who's a famous baseball person?
I don't know. The only one I can think of, which is the wrong timeline, is
Babe Ruth.
Yep, that's all I got.
I
know nothing.
I want to say it was like, who's the guy who has like all the crazy records?
McGuire? There was a McGuire.
There was a McGuire.
Was it Mark?
I think so. But I was thinking of like, it was like, oh, I don't know. I'm stumped.
I'm going to go with Mark McGuire because
Mark McGuire?
that's the only person I know that's not Babe Ruth because I'm a terrible sports person.
He's going to say it. And I'm going to be like, that's who I was thinking of, but I'm going to say stumped. And you're going to say Mark McGuire.
All right. So
I'm throwing a Hail Mary. Wrong sport,
Stumped
but it's
and
fine.
Mark McGuire. Final answers.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Your third listener submitted question from listener Donna S. In 1958, which two attractions opened on the same day?
1958. Well, did the monorail extension opened in 50? No, the monorail opened in 59. I'm going to say the Viewliner because it wasn't around long. So I'll say the Viewliner.
I feel like this is weird. Did Alice in Wonderland open in?
Maybe. Is that what you want to say?
That's what I'm going to say for 1958. I don't know.
Alice in Wonderland? Okay. And then I said the Viewliner. All right. For Vern, you're probably not going to give me a hint on this. Are they in the same land?
Hold on, I'm bringing up my mental map of the park.
Are they still there?
They both are still in Disneyland.
Okay, Viewliner's not.
And even from the cues of each, you cannot see each other.
When the Tiki Room opened?
Tiki Room was like
Later.
63.
Later, yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to hop on your bandwagon with Alice because that seems good. 58, you said? Alice.
1958.
Alice and...
Pinocchio?
No, I think Pinocchio showed up.
Did you say same land or not same land?
You can't see each other.
To the
from
best
the same...
of my mental map, you can't even see them from each other's cues.
I think it was
1958.
When was the castle walkthrough? I'm going to say the castle walkthrough. Sleeping Beauty walkthrough.
Castle
I've ridden
walkthrough.
both on the same day.
Castle walkthrough. What's that?
I have ridden both on the same day.
Okay. That doesn't help much. Okay. So Alice and you said Castle walkthrough.
When did they move the teacups? Was it Alice in Wonderland and they moved? No, you could see the cues from each
They
other.
moved a lot of that stuff
Yeah.
in the 83 remodel. And I think that's when Pinocchio showed up too.
I'm locking in because I'm just overthinking at this point.
I will say the tree house was in the 60s, wasn't it?
Okay, as I'm looking at the actual map, you definitely cannot see the cues from each other's cues.
Okay. Oh,
You could be totally.
I'm going to say the Columbia.
Sailing Ship Columbia and Alice?
Yeah. Alice and the Sailor Ship. And you're saying the Castle walkthrough and Alice?
I think so.
Okay.
Okay, so what
That's
are
a
our
good
final answers here?
We both said Alice in Wonderland, and I'm going to say the Sleeping Beauty castle walkthrough, and Tag is saying Sailing Ship Columbia.
Donna S., great question.
That was a real good question. And it's another one of those brain ticklers. Like, I remember reading this, but I don't remember.
Why do I feel like every question
I
is a
have
brain
a lot
tickler
of brain
for you?
not all the time.
All right. Final answer.
Yep.
Mhm.
All right. And your fourth and final regular round question from listener Stacia S. What are Donald Duck's nephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie's
Dang it.
full names?
Oh, God. I only know Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
That's all I got, too. I thought that was the question. Their full names. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
You're not going to hazard a guess?
Nope. Don't even.
Nope.
You don't have to give last name. Just
Scrooge McDuck.
what is Huey short for? What is Dewey short for? What is Louie short for?
Hubert, Louis, Dewey.
Dwayne? Dewey? I don't know.
We'll go with Dwayne. Why not?
Dwayne? Sure. So Hubert, Lewis, and Dwayne.
And Dwayne. Tag, are you just agreeing?
Yes.
You're just agreeing. Okay.
Yes.
Agreeing with the madness.
Final answer.
Yep.
All right.
Dudley.
And your bonus question tonight, submitted by listener Adam M. What is the name of the dock where you board the boats at Pirates of the Caribbean?
Oh,
it's
Lafitte's
Lafitte's Landing. Yes. I have confidence on one of these.
Me too. Lafitte's Landing.
Is that your final answer?
Yes, named after John Lafitte, the pirate.
All right.
But you getting fancy over there.
Well, listeners, how do you think they did? How did you do listening at home? Stick around until after the discussion, and we can all find out together.
I guarantee you there's a listener who is laughing their butts off at Huey, Dewey,
At
and Louie.
least one listener. That
Yeah.
was bad. And the fact that we completely fail at sports.
That's all right. Well, this week for our discussion topic, we are talking to another fellow podcaster who has, I think I listened to your podcast before we even started podcasting, maybe. But let's welcome Alex from the Backside of Water podcast to the show.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here in one of the elderly ones of a podcast world. I feel like I'm walking in with my proverbial cane being like, oh, you whippersnappers.
Too funny. I shared this when we talked to Alex for a different project, but I want to share with everyone here too. The only podcast I've ever listened to in my entire life was The Backside of Water, and it was while Vern and I were driving to Disneyland. Gosh, I don't even remember what time it was when we did that, but because we've driven out there a couple of times. But yeah, and I just picked it because it sounded fun and we like the Jungle Cruise, and it did not disappoint.
I love it. So, Teresa, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you never listened to podcasts before, what got you into podcasting in the first place? That's a very interesting dynamic.
It's kind of weird. So when Tag approached, this was Tag's idea. DL Weekly was his thing.
Your brainchild.
His brainchild. And so he approached me, and I said yes. He didn't think I was going to agree to it. And then I just kind of told him, like, I don't know if anyone's going to listen or not, but sure, why not? Like, and so the fact that this has grown into what it has grown has like completely blown all of my expectations totally out of the water.
And if you really want to mess with Teresa, go back and listen to the first like 3 or 5 episodes, because she's like, please, can we just take those off the internet?
Well, that had to be hard, because that was another question that I have is, like, you jumped in with both feet and were just like, did you know what podcasting, did you have at least an inkling of what podcasting was, or were you just like, this is going to be a radio show?
Basically, I'm like, oh, so it's like an on-demand radio show. I get it.
Okay. And so you still haven't listened to any podcasts?
No, I'm not a podcast listener. It's very, very odd. I don't know if it's because we live it every week, so I don't know.
I could see that.
You say this, but I listen to a ton of podcasts.
Yeah, but it's also, it depends on your job. So my job is with people all day, so I can't really be tuned out and listening to podcasts. Whereas like Vern, my husband, he's a mailman. So that's literally his life, is hanging out outside listening to podcasts all day. So, and I have a very short commute, so I wouldn't be able to, it'd take me like 2 weeks to get through an hour episode. So
I think that's fair. That's what I love about podcasts is, I mean, for me, I just throw them on when I'm driving somewhere or when I'm working out in the yard or on the house or something like that. It's a great way for you to, because if I don't do podcasts, I'll do audiobooks, but I'm not really like I don't sit down and just listen to music. When I was younger, I used to do that, but now I'm like, this is like my talk radio era of life, where I'm like, I'm just going to go listen to somebody talk. That's what sounds better.
Well, that fits in with your elderly podcastness into
exactly.
this group.
Exactly. As I age podcast wise, and I age physically with my interest. I'm just going to go listen to sports radio, kids, even though I know nothing about sports.
However, I do have to say, we were talking about this before this show, when we talked about this, when we chatted with you on the other project.
For Did You Know Disney? They're going to be on Did You Know Disney, and I've just slacked everybody.
Don't worry. You're just letting it marinate and get like better with age. It's like,
exactly.
A fine wine.
It's a Chianti.
So when we were talking for that, you told us that you have all these episodes for the Backside of Water that revolve around the SEA, which is something I know just little tidbits on. So those podcasts I'm going to have to definitely listen to.
Yes,
I need to learn.
And I will say this, it's like you set that up just for me to take a good swing at it, because we are actually in the process right now. We just finished recording, and I don't know, it'll probably release around the time that this episode that we're talking on right now will release, that we will have the 3rd installment of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers saga. And this one's beefy, and I'm very excited for it. And it has the most, how do I say this? The most it's the most chock full of deep and rich lore and content around the SEA that you can find, specifically at Disneyland, especially. Ooh. And with the Jungle Cruise updates, they've actually put a lot of SEA stuff in the queue area and out on the attraction that not a lot of people know about. And so we take the opportunity to explore that even more in depth with the latest updates that they've done to the attraction. So I'm really excited, and you should for sure listen to those 2 episodes so they prepare you for episode 3 coming up.
You know, Teresa, we've been hijacked here, because the first thing that Alex has done is turn it around and ask us questions. And now he's promoting his stuff. Like, what's going on here?
Perfect. I love it.
Let's get back on track. So
this is the problem with podcasters, because you guys did the same thing on my show. It's like, I'm being interviewed on Did You Know Disney right now.
That's how it works, man. So let's let our audience get to know you a little better if they
Yes.
don't already know you. Tell us your Disney story. What got you interested in Disney or Disneyland? You can be as detailed as you like with this. Of course, we're going to talk to you a little more in depth about some of your personal history with Disney, but just kind of like what got you going, basically.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I mean, I didn't grow up in like a super Disney friendly family. Like they weren't anti-Disney, but they never went out of their way to go on Disney vacations or anything like that. And for some reason, I was just fascinated by the things. So my parents took a trip to Epcot while I was still in utero, and they had the
In
big
your
old
DNA.
Yeah, exactly. Well, basically, yes. Maybe that's where it came from. Is it like some sort of pixie dust came through while I was being baked? But my parents had like, the shoulder VCR or the VHS recorder, and they took video of it. And I just remember watching this and just thinking like, this is another world. This is miraculous. And during that trip, they also bought an Epcot book. Like it was one of those big coffee table Epcot books. And I remember on the front of it, it had Mickey Mouse standing on top of Epcot. And I just was enamored by this thing. Like every single page seemed like it was almost like a quasi-religious experience when I would look at this thing. And again, like I said, I don't know what the influence was. But then as I was growing up, I never really had like a ton of opportunities to go to Disney, but it was always a love that was in the back of my mind. And we talked about this on Did You Know Disney as well. Teg and I are similar in the fact that we haven't watched a lot of Disney movies. And so I wasn't like a huge Disney movie person. I just loved the parks primarily. And whenever I got a chance to go out to the parks, I would always jump at the opportunity. And when I was in high school and early college age, I would travel out and see all my friends who lived in California and always make a point to go to the parks and loved it. And then maybe when we talk later on, I can kind of tell you guys the road that led up to me getting a job at Disney, because it was a little crazy if I'm being completely honest. Yes.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about that later.
Yeah, so it wasn't like a magic aha moment that I'm just like, oh, and there was Walt or anything like that. But it was kind of something that's just always been secretly passionate. And maybe it was because my family wasn't a Disney fan that I was like ultimately counterculture. That I was like, you guys don't like Disney, so I'm going to love Disney. I don't know. Maybe there's something to unpack there one day.
Well, before we unpack that, when you go to the parks on just your first day of a visit, we like to know if you have any sort of way you like to attack the park. So do you like to go? Some people start at the tunnels. Are you a left or a right tunnel person? But more specifically, where do you head to first? Do you hang out on Main Street? Do you go left towards Adventureland, forward to Fantasyland? What's your plan?
Oh, that's a great question. And yeah, my co-host, Freddie Martin, he's very much the guy who wants to get into, do you go left or right? He's a left or righter guy. And I've never actually thought about it until he brought it up. And I tend to, during the day, I tend to go left, and at night I go right, which is odd. Yeah. So my plan of attack is always Adventureland first. It's always been Adventureland first. And I've found that when we go with other people who are kind of taking the itinerary and running with it, they'll go different directions, and it kind of brings a level of anxiety to me that I'm like, but we're supposed to be going to Adventureland first. So
we've had that too. We're also lefters, and I don't remember what trip it was. I think it was the trip that we went out for the 66th. And my flight got delayed and everything was just discombobulated. And we, for some reason, I think started with like lunch and went to Galaxy's Edge. We did not feel like our day was correct until we started over and went through Adventureland and continued
it
on.
Was
like
all
we
messed up.
were so confused and like, where are we? What day is it? What time? It was just weird. We felt so off kilter.
I think it's a really good question that you asked, though, because I've never really thought about this, but I've just inherently understood that kind of the park takes me instead of I go and like destroy these parts of the park. I'm going to hit this and I'm going to hit this and I'm going to kill this. Yeah. I'm not that kind of guy. Instead, I'm like, this is where we meander and we take our adventure through here. And so maybe that's what also kind of upsets me when other people take, and I shouldn't say upset, it's not like I'm crying in the corner, but it like kind of puts me off kilter, is when they're like, Space Mountain first, then Smuggler's Run, then we're going over to Rise of the Resistance. I'm like, but you don't understand. This is like eating a little dessert and then going to the main course and then having some salad and going back to this. No, we don't do it this way. That's a good question, though. Yes, I'm always left. Always Adventureland.
Mm-hmm.
Always Adventureland. Yeah, I think in that trip that you were talking about, Teresa, I think we ended up backtracking and we're like, we just
need to reset.
Yeah, let's just go back to Adventureland. We'll start there and then we'll feel right again.
So I'm curious, what made you guys decide to kind of just go hodgepodge like that?
Well, Teresa arrived like in the middle of the day.
Yeah, it was a weird thing. So I was supposed to fly in. Vern and I were supposed to fly in the night before, and our flight got canceled. So we hopped on the next available flight, which was way too early, o'clock in the morning. I think we got to the Hojo at like 10 a.m., showered, got on Main Street. Well, then by that time we had been up for like, I don't remember how many hours, and we hadn't eaten. So we wanted food. And for some reason, I think Ronto Roasters is where we decided. Anyways, so it was just, off. But usually, like on other trips where we've arrived at the evening and enter the park in the evening, we still do the
go left.
Adventurelands. Yeah.
And I feel like maybe for me, it's because you end with the future. Like Tomorrowland is it's the kiss goodnight, in my opinion. And so when you start by going to the past, it just doesn't make sense. Excuse me, when you end by going to the past.
Yeah.
Because I feel like at the end of the night, I'm rarely in Tomorrowland at the end of the night. I'm like back on the west side for some reason at the end of the night. So then I end up coming back kind of the way I came. I feel like we usually go out like Frontierland or something. It's very strange.
I will say, so this is what I'll say. For me, I'm very conscious of that because my heart will always be on the west side, as we used to say, west side, best side. Because what I'll do is instead of Tomorrowland being my kiss goodnight, I'll go revisit my old friend and I'll just go over to New Orleans Square, Adventureland Frontier, because that's what I want to get that last little, when I'm looking to get the last little dust from that pixie, that's where I'm going to find it, is over on that side, because there's a lot of people who love Fantasyland, and I'm not a huge Fantasyland fanatic. And maybe it's just because, again, maybe I didn't grow up with the movies as much as most. But to me, if I could only go to one part of the park, it would be Adventure Frontier and New Orleans Square. That's it. That's Disneyland to me.
One of the things with the Fantasyland for me is I like the attractions in Fantasyland, but I feel like there's not really immersive queues. It feels like the rides are short enough that you get off of one and then you're in another line. Like it's very quick, back-to-back line, quick ride, line, quick ride.
Yes.
And when you're doing other things, it feels like there's more substance to each of those attractions.
More
waiting in
theming.
line. Yeah. And so and the Fantasyland, just because of the way it's built and how Americans have become rounder, it feels a lot tighter. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Oh, you're always brushing up against people.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just like you've got, there's no real good place for strollers to go. So then the walkways are becoming more narrow because of that. And the queues were not built for the crowds that are there now. So that's spilling out further than originally built for. So it's just kind of, it's outgrown itself, which is great that it's popular. But I'm with you. I like Fantasyland when it's not chaotic. It gets a little bit too, I don't know, claustrophobic feeling. Like I just don't like, I feel like I'm getting like smushed all the time.
We should
that
try
Enchanted
to go
Wish. Oh, Snow White's Enchanted Wish. Oh, that's just perfection.
It is.
That's
beautiful.
that's like French, whatever the chef kiss is. Mwah.
Chef's kiss.
Yes, there we go.
I feel like maybe in the future, Teresa, we should try doing Fantasyland towards the end of the night when like all the kids have gone to sleep, and it's probably
just more
plus
calm.
It's nighttime and it looks beautiful at night.
Mm-hmm.
The backside of the castle at night is better than the front side, in my opinion.
Ooh.
Oh my word!
That's
it
a
is
hot
work
take.
of art. It is a hot take. That is definitely. But you got to go back and check out the backside of the castle because
Not
it
to be
is.
confused with the backside of water.
That's the only reason. I really just wanted to plug the podcast again.
Oh my goodness! All right, Alex.
So speaking of the backside of water,
what we haven't even got through the last question.
That's what I'm saying. I was
what's
leading
your
up to
favorite
it for you.
attraction?
My favorite attraction. So
Now-
Any Disney park.
This is a Disneyland podcast, but it could be any Disney park.
okay. Can I say
Bonus question: what parks have you been to?
I've only been to Walt Disney World and Disneyland. I've never
Okay.
been to anything overseas. Is it possible for me to say the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser? It's not a traditional attraction. It's a thing.
Have you been to it?
Yes. So
He's like, we need
man.
another interview with
Episode
you
of
so we
this,
can talk
yes.
about that.
because I can honestly say, so I went with so we've got another podcast called The Smuggler's Dispatch, which I host with my buddy Michael Howarth, and it's all Star Wars. And so in it, it's a very immersive podcast that the entire premise is that we're on what's called the Raven 5, which is essentially a repurposed transport vehicle. And we've got our repurposed B-1 battle droid, who is now our protocol droid. His name is CB7, and he flies us throughout the galaxy, and we talk about various different topics. Well, our show led us to the Galactic Star Cruiser.
Oh, fun.
And if you want, you can see Michael and my experience on the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser on our Smuggler's Dispatch YouTube channel. And I'm going to say that the Galactic Star Cruiser is the greatest thing I've ever done.
Wow.
Period. Not just Disney. It's the best thing I've ever done.
Wow.
And so for Star Wars fans, it's the penultimate. It is the reason for reason. Teg, if you are that big of a Star Wars fan, get over there sooner than later, because people don't understand it, and I don't think it's going to survive.
Yeah.
I think its days
Which
are numbered.
was foretold
by the tomes. That's why
yes.
That's why Yoda set the tree on fire. He was like, Star Cruiser plans are in here.
Yeah, the thing is, for me, is it's a budgetary concern, right? Like, I'm sure it's great, and
It's an
honestly,
investment,
probably if I were to experience it, it'd be like the Savi's Workshop, where I tell people all the time on our podcast, I say $200 or $220 or whatever it is now is worth it for the experience alone. If I walked out of there without a lightsaber, I still think it'd be worth it.
Yeah.
So I probably would feel that way about Galactic Star Cruiser, but not having that experience and having to pay up front, it's a hard sell for, like, I could go on a 7-day plus cruise for that cost and get all of this stuff.
No, I think that's all a very fair criticism. I think it's a very fair criticism. I will also say that I think in light of that, it is very expensive, but I never find myself regretting having gone on it, being like, man, I could have spent that money better. In fact, I've kind of gotten on this like obsessive, how can I get back? And that's what everybody who goes on, that's their next step is, how can I go back? Yeah, like I said,
but it's so expensive, nobody can afford to go back.
Well, but that's the crazy thing. So there are a lot of people. There's a huge culture around it, like a huge culture. So our friends Sarah and Stephen Mack, who they host the Princess and Scoundrel podcast. Mm-hmm. They're all about the Star Cruiser, and so Dan Flores, who he does a lot of Disneyland stuff, he's all about that as well. And I think collectively they've gone 2 or 3 times. We met some people and became really good friends with them that we're texting all the time. And they're going back this next month, and this will be their 3rd time on the Star Cruiser since it opened last March.
Wow.
But not enough people are doing that.
They need a frequent flyer program that you get like a 20% discount on future bookings or something.
But the nice thing
they
is
do on cruises, you get like that. You put that money down and then you get a cheaper rate for the next cruise.
I mean, they're offering packages like that now where you get like, if you go to the Galactic Star Cruiser, then they'll give you like 20% off a churro in one of the parks. And it's like, what is this package that you're doing? Give me a discount on the Star Cruiser. I don't get it, but I will say, for Star Wars fans out there, I do not regret 1 minute of it. And check out the video that we do on our Smuggler's Dispatch, because it's one of those where it's more vloggy style, where we don't do like cool edits and all that kind of stuff. So you try to get as much, and that's one of the comments that we get all the time on that video, is that we have one of the most like uncut, honest experiences that people can have for the Star Cruiser. And so that's my answer. I should say my left field answer is Galactic Star Cruiser is the best. But if it comes to traditional, my heart will always be Jungle Cruise. But I think the best Disney attraction of all time is Pirates of the Caribbean, because I think that it is just the axiom of perfection in Disneyland, not Disney World.
That is a very, very, yes, that's important to distinguish which one, because they are not the
one
same.
last follow-up, because I want to move on from the Galactic Star Cruiser, but I have to ask.
Yes.
Of your whole experience, what was like the highlight of the Galactic Star Cruiser? If you had to pick one thing that was like the best thing about it?
It's the immersive nature. It is fully immersive. That there are times where you have to remind yourself that it's fake, because you actually get into this place where you truly believe it. You truly believe that you are part of a Star Wars adventure, and you start to believe, oh, I really am this special. Like, they want me to be part of this mission. This is important. Like, it plays with you in such an amazing, immersive way that when you leave, you see it all the time. People have like withdrawals because of that, and they do such a great job. And the cast who's on it, oh my word. I can't get enough. I can't get enough.
Wow. Very cool. Well, we're going to segue off of that.
Yeah.
And I am very excited. So one of the things that we did not talk about when we introduced you is you are a former cast member.
I am.
And
Yes.
you worked in our favorite area of the park, Adventureland, of course. So kind of tell us about that journey, since you were someone that, growing up, you didn't get to go to the parks as frequently as you wanted. So I'm going to say that means you didn't live right there. So
Correct.
Tell us how did you become a cast member?
Yeah. So I moved out to California right after my community college days. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? I'll just go have an adventure. And I moved to California, and I fell into a pretty rough patch. Like in my early 20s, I had no direction. I was like, what am I doing with my life? Where am I going? And at the time, I was cleaning swimming pools out in Southern California. And guys, I got to be completely honest. It was the first and only time I've ever been fired from a job.
What?
And I got fired from cleaning swimming pools, which I mean, if I'm being completely transparent, I teach people how to work on pools now. So, I mean, obviously it's not like I thought I was too good for the work or anything like that. But long story short, the guy who I was working with, I took 5 days off from work to go on a cruise. And I even got a replacement for myself, and I got 8 messages when I got back from the cruise. And the 8th one was my brother, who took over for me. And he was like, well, just wanted to let you know your boss just called me and said that you've been fired. And I was like, and the reason why is because he couldn't get a hold of me. And I was like, dude, I was on a cruise. I told you I was going on a cruise. And so, yeah, needless to say, I think it was extremely fortuitous, because I kind of went into this pity party moment where I was dating a girl out there that just was not the right fit. I was doing something that was not the right fit. I broke up with the girl. I got fired from the job. I was at like my low point. Like, I was just like this. I am such a loser. And it was actually, this is why I think that Disneyland has imprinted so much on me. I had the Southern California annual pass. At that time was $95 a year. And it had a ton of blackout dates, but I was down there meeting some friends who were actually from Colorado, where I live now and where I was from. And they were out visiting, and they were like, we want to go to Disneyland. And I was like, I'll go with you guys. So they had taken their daughter and they were going and doing something, and I split away, and I was like, oh, I'll just go watch this 51st Magical Years of the Park video with Steve Martin, because I'm a huge Steve Martin fan. And so I went in and watched it, and I remember the exact moment. And I told this story on another podcast or two, and so people can go back and listen to it, because I tell it the same way, because it's become like it's all started with a mouse situation in my own life. But I remember specifically sitting in there, and there's a montage of all of the attractions over the ages as they like play over each other. And I remember that moment being like, why am I not working here? This is like where I should be. Mm-hmm. And I had dreamed about being a Jungle Cruise skipper for a long time. Like, that's what I wanted out of life. And I just never thought that it was possible. But when someone's soul is broken enough that you've got nothing left to lose, you're willing to put it all on the line.
When you wish upon a star.
Exactly. So the next day, I went down to the casting center, and I walked in just like the ultimate country bumpkin. And I was like, hey, I want to work on the Jungle Cruise. And they were like, okay, there's protocols before you come in, and just, guns a-blazing. So they had me go through all the different paperwork and all that kind of stuff, and went through the interview process. I went through like 3 or 4 different interviews that day. And at the end of the last interview, he was like, okay, do you have any other questions? And I was like, yeah, do I know like when I'll get the job? Like, when do you guys tell us that? And he was like, oh, I hired you an hour ago. And I was like, oh, Okay. And so I actually hired in as, I should say I went to audition for what was it called? A character host. So the folks who go around with characters and they're like, oh, Pluto's got to go get a bone or something. Which if anybody knows me, you will know that is so not my personality. Like I do not have the personality of a character host, and it takes a very, very charismatic, like over the top, insanely magical person to do that job. Mm-hmm. So after the first round, I got kicked out. They were like, this guy does not have what it takes. And so again, I have a pity party in the parking lot. I'm like, I can't even cut it here. This is my dream. It's over. But then I remembered that the guy who hired me was like, okay, I'm going to do two things for you. First, I'm going to put you on this character host track. And if you don't do that, then I'll get you into Adventure Frontierland attractions. So you've at least got that as a backup. So I called my dad and I was like, Dad, I'm such a loser. I can't get this job. And he was like, Al, you wanted to work the Adventureland Frontierland. Pick yourself up by your bootstraps and be thankful for what you got. So I reported for duty the next couple of days on the parade route. And that's the way they used to work, is they would do what's called guest interaction training. And so the first thing that you do or did at that time as a cast member is you would learn how to talk to people. And I loved it. And so then once you were done with that, it was at the height of the summer season, so they hire a ton of people, and they don't have a ton of places to put them, so they just put them out on the parade route. And we're basically the people who are like, please move all the way through the walkway, keep on walking, which actually is a great, great set of skills that you get to be able to direct humans. It's amazing. Like, you learn these psychological tools on how to get people to move in the directions that you want them to move. And as a teacher, holy cow, it was some of the greatest teaching. So I was kind of in limbo at that point and didn't know exactly where I was going, because at the time, Disneyland had two new higher attractions, is what they were called. And in Adventureland, which at the time, Adventureland and Frontierland were kind of lumped together. So you would have Indiana Jones, Jungle Cruise, Tiki Room, and Big Thunder Mountain. Those were like and really what it also did was Main Street. So they were all chunked together. And so that's why you would see people working the Jungle Cruise, and then the next day they would be driving a tram down the middle of the Main Street or something like that. So the only new hire attractions were Jungle Cruise and Indiana Jones. And I did not want Indiana Jones. I didn't want to be underground all day long, just smelling oil, grease, and basically just grouping people together and getting them on cars. And so I wanted the Jungle Cruise. That's what I hired in for. And I didn't think that I had any choice of this. So my buddy came over to me and was like, I just found out that I got Jungle Cruise. And I was like, how? And he was like, I went over and asked. And they put me in Jungle Cruise. I was like, that's all you got to do? You just have to ask? So I call up the scheduler, Frank, and I'm like, Frank, I want to get on the Jungle Cruise. And he was like, oh, Alex, I already placed you on an attraction. And I was like, oh, no. And he was like, yeah, let me look here and see what I've got you on. I've got you on the Jungle Cruise. And I was like, oh! So Frank, in scheduling, you're still there. I know you're still there. If you're listening to this podcast, thank you for that. So really, that's what got me into it. And I mean, honestly, I think that's why I love Disneyland so much, because it was a dream of mine that I had always wanted to achieve. And it came at such a low point in my early 20s that I was just feeling down in the dumps about, that it really taught me that, I mean, as cliche and cheesy as this may be, the point still stands, that it taught me that the things that I have as dreams are achievable, and that they lead to some absolutely incredible opportunities. Because if it weren't for Disney, I promise you, obviously I wouldn't be talking to you guys, because I wouldn't have a podcast, and I wouldn't be teaching. I mean, there are so many different dominoes that started to fall after I went to Disney that kind of led me down a path of fulfillment, purpose, and direction that I never would have had I not taken those first couple of steps in kind of just like, really, it's a leap of faith. And also kind of a desperate move And it was just absolutely a godsend at that moment that I was just like, this is awesome. And it opened so many doors. So that's why a lot of people are like, Al, why are you such a Disney fan? And I think that it goes so much further than just being a Disney fan. I mean, it really literally changed my life and my trajectory completely and permanently. So that's the nutshell version of how I got involved working at Disney.
That's incredible.
Wow.
That is quite, I mean, you're right. It does sound like it totally just changed everything for you.
Yes.
And happened at the exact right time when you needed it to happen. So that's magic. That's what that is.
Very, very grateful for that. Yeah. And I'll
Thanks,
always
Disneyland.
Exactly. I'll be eternally grateful for Disney for actually seeing that I wasn't just some snot-nosed kid who didn't deserve to make the cut. And that's the thing that I always tell people is, and you guys didn't even ask this question, but I'm going to totally go down this trail, that Disney is so great because they really do believe in their staff. And this is the hard thing. So you see a dichotomy here. You see a lot of people complain and like criticize Disney for how they treat their staff members. I can honestly say that, and again, I'm just one person, so I'm not speaking for anybody, but in my experience, that's been really like a cognitive dissonance for me to see, because Disney was the first company that ever made me feel like I had worth. And that's a crazy statement to make, but they really, like, at every single turn, whenever there was a point or an opportunity for growth or advancement in the company, they instantly came over and was like, Alex, we want you to grow here. Alex, we want to take you here. Alex, we want to take you here. And it was incredible. It was truly incredible. Now, I mean, granted, I was working in the mid 2000s, so things could change completely between then and now. But it was one of those where it was just such a great encouragement for me to see these people who are like, yeah, you're a funny skipper. Now, why don't you go work on Big Thunder Mountain? And now, why don't you become a trainer? And now, why don't you go work over in the Opera House as like a Disney historian? And so on and so on. And so, yeah, it was great, guys. I could talk for hours about how great it was.
Oh, that's awesome.
So tell us about, because I think people would find this interesting. Tell us about, what was the process to go from being hired and you were told to, guess what, you're on the Jungle Cruise, and you're like, yes, from that to going on a boat with a boat full of guests? Like, what was that like? What was the training like? How were they back in the day anyway? With like the jokes and everything.
Yeah. So it was 6 days. It was 6 days. And on the seventh day, I rested. So, yeah, it's 6 days worth of training. And that's pretty much for almost every attraction, at least in Adventureland Frontier. Like you would have these 6 days, and they may have shortened it down to 5. But when I was there, we had 6 days of training, and they would go through various different steps for you. Like first, it was again, guest interaction. Then they would talk to you about the history and the story of the attraction. And then they would go through safety stuff. Then they would go through operational stuff. And then you would always have a super early shift that was the opening shift. And a lot of people think that like opening is at 7:45. And for most normal people, that is. But when you're training, you have to be there. I think my call time was 3:30. Like, it's crazy early.
I thought you were going to say like 6.
No. So,
Wow.
so let's do the math, because I got done at 2. So yeah, I think it was around 3:30. I got done at 2 p.m. on those shifts, and it was awesome because nobody's ever seen Disneyland at 3:30 in the morning unless you're a cast member who works the third shift. And it's insane to walk through Main Street with all of the show lights completely on. So it's just doused in pure, like, radiant UV light all the way down Main Street with the work lights on. And they're just blasting like local rock and roll radio over the Disneyland speakers. It's insanity. It was such a bizarre experience. And that one is the shift where they basically go over how to be a skipper. And so they would take you out in the jungle, and you would learn how to maneuver the boat and how to stop and start. And I, the whole time, was thinking, okay, do I have to create my own jokes for this? Do I have to come up with my jokes? How do I do this? And they actually have something called the operating guide. And I still actually have my operating guide, which they used to call the OG. And with a lot of, especially with a lot of skippers. Yeah, exactly. With a lot of skippers, you'll hear them talk about OG. They're like, that's a non-OG joke. But the OG, which is that operating guide, it actually has an entire script that walks you through every single show scene, and it gives you multiple options for jokes to tell inside of that scene. And you can basically tailor make your experience, but that's how you always hear at least some variation of the same style of jokes all the way through. Whereas Disney World didn't have any sort of script back in the day, and you could basically do anything. Now, again, guys like Dave Marley and Trevor Kelly, who I'm friends with now, but I didn't know them before, they are the guys who are responsible for Disney getting an actual script requirement, because they would have no problem. They would wear this as a badge of honor if they heard me talking about this, that they were off the rails with their jokes, like things that would make your hair turn gray when you hear it. And so there was
why weren't we on those cruises?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. They lasted until the summer of 2006, and the summer of 2006 is when everything changed, and I came in right after that in 2007, and the Jungle Cruise was very different. And so we had to stick very much to the script, which again, the script was written by a group of Imagineers, and it was cheesy. That's what was so great about it, is it was delightfully perfect in its cheese. And so that's basically what the training looked like. And I'll never forget the first boat that I took out, because that's a scary moment. Like when you're training, I had my buddy Dean Simpson, who was my trainer, and then my fellow trainee Mark Paragua was next to him. And these are guys that I'm still friends with to this day. I mean, gosh, 15 years later, we're still buddies. And we talk to each other on Facebook. And Dean actually lives like 45 minutes from me here in Colorado now. But with that, he trained me and put me out there, and he was like, okay, this is how you load a boat. And so I went up there and loaded the boat, and I was like, okay, Dean, here you go. And he was like, no, you're taking this one. And I was like, whoa, huh? And he was like, yeah, it's your time to shine. And so it was, I don't remember anything except for the end. I remember at the very end, I dropped. Yeah, exactly. It was pure, completely blocked out. But I remember at the end, a couple of people clapped, and I was like, I didn't die. And did they know
that they were your first boat?
I don't think that they had any clue. I mean, well, I should say this. They obviously had a clue because I was so terrible. Obviously, I was so terrible, but I don't think that they knew that I was this greeny skipper going out there telling them all these horrible jokes. And so, yeah, it was one of those moments where it was kind of a benchmark where I was like, yeah, this is addictive. I can see why people want to do this for the rest of their lives, because this is awesome. Not every trip was awesome, but that first one was amazing.
Even though you don't remember most of it, it was still
I remember the beginning and the end, and that's really, I guess, all that matters. That was enough to change me.
You left on time, and you got back, and everybody was still there. So that's really what's important, right?
Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished.
You didn't capsize. You didn't lose any guests.
You didn't go off the rails.
No, not that time. I didn't.
Not that. Okay, before we get into that, because I feel like there's definitely a story there, I was just going to ask some basic things like, what are your favorite? Do you have favorite jokes, favorite areas, favorite animal friends on the Jungle Cruise?
Yeah, so my favorite joke was actually one that I made up, and I wasn't able to say it with any management on the boat, but it then did become part of the operating guide after I left, which I was like, I'm emblazoned forever. So back before this newest update, when you had the attacking natives scene, you could time it perfectly so the natives would stop and they would look at you and then they would move back down. And so the joke that I created is I would come around that corner and they would come up and I'd be like, folks, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Guys, get down. You're going to ruin the surprise. And so they would all turn and they would get back behind their bushes. And I'd say, sorry, folks, we got a little surprise for Skipper Chris in the boat behind us. It's Skipper Chris's last day on the Jungle. He just doesn't realize it yet. and that one was my favorite joke every single time. So, yeah, but and then my favorite My favorite animals were definitely the African bull elephants because I loved the mother-in-law joke. And there was just something amazing. There's also a great joke that when you would do it at night, you would say, ladies and gentlemen, it's the world's fastest elephant. And you would turn your light on to the elephant over there and you would say, now watch, with lightning speed, he's going to show up on the other shore. Here you go. And you turn your light and within 2 seconds, he's on the other side. And I'm like, there you go. Lightning fast. And it was a joke that nobody thought was funny, but I just thought was hilarious. I also love the one that I thought always landed so perfectly. And again, I was very OG. So you'll talk to a lot of skippers who make up their own jokes. They're edgy. They're a little racy, so on and so forth. I was super clean. I was just straight edge, just wanted to be as much of a suck up as I could be. And one of my favorite jokes is always that if you take a look on the left side of the boat here, you're going to see absolutely nothing. That is one of my favorite jokes because nobody ever really got it until like 2 seconds after. And then they were like, oh, this guy. I also love the bamboo. Now, the bamboo in this area can grow 2 to 3 stories tall. Some of it's 4 stories, but that's just another story. And that was one of my favorites as well. They're all just terrible. That's what's so great about it. So yeah, those are my favorite jokes and my favorite animals. Hated the hippos. Hippos get way too much credit for everything.
Those hippos. That's why you have to shoot at them to scare them away.
Yeah.
I love skippers that use the timing of the attraction to their thing. So like you said, with timing where the natives would like go back down.
Yes.
One with the elephants that I liked was there was one, I think it's only been once, maybe twice in all the times I've been on the Jungle Cruise. They've used the joke where they come and they're like, look, I've trained this one so well. And they'll say something and it'll make the noise. And then they'll say something else and then it like does it again. And I'm like, that's so good that you get so used to it that you can make these jokes and it works so well. And I think those are the best because those, I know that like the attraction in general takes some skill to pull off the cheesy jokes, which by the way, I feel like it's really hard to say the same joke a bunch of times and still seem like you're delivering it for the first time, but somehow skippers do it. But the real skill is that timing.
Without a doubt. Well, and that's the thing is, I mean, when you do something enough, it just becomes second nature. I mean, I could jump on a boat right now and I could take people out and it would just be autopilot. I mean, I think that I calculated that I did it something like 1,400 times or something along those lines while I was there. And I mean, there was one moment where for some reason there was a strange thing that happened in the in our shift changes where I took 22 trips straight. And it was, I mean, I don't know if I've ever been as exhausted as that moment, because the thing that's hard is not only are you entertaining, but the speakers back in the day, because nobody wanted that attraction around anymore, they didn't refurbish anything. And so all the speakers were dying or dead. And so you would have to almost yell at the top of your lungs. A lot of times you just talking was louder than what was going on the speakers overhead. And I know for a fact now that I definitely have vocal damage from working on the Jungle Cruise to this day because of the strenuous nature of those types of things. But what you would also do is you would also have your skipper voice. So I would actually talk over the microphone like this. And so when you talk like this 22 times in a row, it gets a little bit exhausting on the voice. And so you got to do that. Otherwise, it doesn't sound nearly as good over the speaker if you use your regular voice. But yeah, there's definitely the repetition will allow you to pretty quickly pick up on the little nuances of the Bengal tiger movement or of a movement on Bertha inside of the Indian elephant bathing pool. You start to really notice those things. And when you can start to play on the timing with that, that's where it gets really good.
So you said something that I think our audience and listeners are going to pick up on, and I want to hear more about, which is the Jungle Cruise was not maintained well and they wanted to get rid of it. Like, what is this about?
Tell us about the dark period for the Jungle.
When you first said this, when we had talked previously, I did not believe you. I was like, I've never even heard rumors about this. What? It's a classic opening day attraction. It's in every Magic Kingdom style park.
We have a movie for it now.
Exactly.
Looks like we're coming in for a landing, gang. But please stay listening until trivia comes to a stop. And then you can walk to the nearest exit. Thanks for listening to the 8th wonder of the world, DL Weekly.
Welcome back to Trivia Land, where we're going to find out how Tag and Teresa did, if they got any of them right, or half of them right, or how many right they got. Tag, Teresa, how do you feel you did tonight?
Not super great.
Not great.
No? Well, let's find out
Lafitte's
together.
Landing, though.
Yeah,
You
Lafitte's
feeling
Landing.
confident on that one?
Yeah, so is that bonus worth like 4 points? Because that'd be one.
Unfortunately, no.
Well, then.
All right. Well, your first listener submitted question tonight from listener Brooke A. In 1985, which promotional float in the Main Street Electrical Parade was destroyed by a fire? You guessed Small World or Casey Jr. The correct answer that we were looking for was Return to Oz.
Ooh.
Oh, my God.
Dang.
Return to Oz. Well, good job,
That was a great question.
Brooke.
Brooke A. Yes. Your second regular round question submitted by listener Cooper C. In 2010, 60 Major League Baseball All-Stars made their way down Main Street before the 2010 All-Star Game in Angel Stadium. Which MLB All-Star served as the Grand Marshal? Your answers were Stumped and Mark McGuire.
Which was definitely before 2010. Now that I remember him.
Is it 2010 was the
Yeah,
year?
it was 2010. Yeah,
Okay.
he was definitely before 2010. But...
Okay.
The correct answer we were looking for was Rod Carew, former Angels player and Hall of Famer.
Nope.
Nope.
That was
Yep.
not who I
Nope.
was thinking of.
There was no tickle in this brain for that question.
All right.
Rod.
Your third regular round question submitted by listener Donna S. In 1958, which two attractions opened on the same day?
Oh, yeah.
Your guesses were both of you saying Alice in Wonderland, specifically that ride, not the teacups. And Tag saying the sailing ship Columbia, and Teresa saying the walkthrough of Sleeping Beauty Castle. The correct two attractions, both opening on June 14th, 1958. Alice in Wonderland, specifically the ride, not the teacups,
Woo, we're halfway there.
and the sailing ship Columbia.
Oh.
Boom!
Good job.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That was good. That was good job, Tag.
I got Alice. You hooked your ship to my caterpillar. It was a team effort.
See, if people bought our merch more, we could totally have a shirt that says, "You hooked your ship to my caterpillar." And we
But
could have a sailing ship Columbia being
would
towed by the caterpillar.
No one would have any idea in the parks. Be like, what is going on?
But that's
I
why
don't
you have
understand."
those, because our avid listeners would get it, and that is who it would be for.
I love it. And your fourth and final regular round question, submitted by listener Stacia S.
Oh gosh.
What are Donald Duck's nephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie's full names? Not asking for the last name, just the entirety of their first name.
For the record, is it Duck?
That was not provided with
Oh,
the
okay.
answer to this question.
Okay.
So you said Hubert for Huey, Louis for Louie, and Dwayne for Dewey.
I don't think it's Dwayne.
The correct answer that I was looking for was for Huey, Hubert.
Yes.
For Louie, Louis.
Yes.
And for Dewey, Deuteronomy.
Ooh.
Deuteronomy.
Yes.
Not Dwayne.
Also, due to a 2017 reboot, we would have accepted for Dewey, Duford, and for Louie, Llewellyn.
Oh.
Oh.
Dang.
And their last name is Duck because Huey, Dewey,
is
and Louie
Duck.
are the sons of Donald's sister Della Duck.
Okay. And your bonus question tonight, submitted by listener Adam M. What is the name of the dock where you board the boats at the Pirates of the Caribbean? Both of you get in that toot sweet Lafitte's Landing.
Woohoo.
Woo!
Well, listeners, how do you think they did? How did you do listening at home? Do you have some great questions that you think are going to really stump them next week? If you've got that perfect question and you'd like to hear it read live on air, feel free to send that in at trivia@dlweekly.net.
Well, we will be back next week with more Disneyland news and information.
Until then, go out and enjoy the parks.
Please remain seated until the podcast comes to a complete stop and the doors have opened. Then collect your belongings, watch your head, and step carefully from the episode. On behalf of all of our crew, thanks for traveling with us. And we hope you have a happy and memorable visit here at DL Weekly.